God is still in charge. On that fateful evening, when his brothers pulled him out of the dry well, they had thrown him into earlier and waited for the arrival of the caravan of the Ishmaelite slave traders. Joseph must have kept wondering where God was in the midst of his precarious situation. I am sure he must have kept wishing that, when he opened his eyes, he will come out from the world of the bad dream he was having. Since he was a dreamer, this should also be a dream that will never come into reality. His dreams of being the star of his family must not be eclipsed by this nightmarish experience in a filthy pit dug in the middle of nowhere. There was no way he was going to end like this, he thought. This could also be a prank taken too far by his brothers. It's high time Big Brother Reuben intervened. But this was not a dream, neither was it a prank. He was about to be sold as a slave. He will never set eyes on his father's house again. His coat of many colors was gone for good. The next decades of his life were going to be spent in Egypt. First as a servant in the house of Potiphar, then as an inmate in a rat-infested prison. Was God still in charge of his life? He wondered. When Joseph found himself in the prison, after the wife of Potiphar framed him for attempting to go to bed with her, I wonder what must have been going through his mind. I am sure he must have felt that God has forgotten about him. Here is this young man who was yet to recover from the hatred and evil plots of his brothers. Joseph must have felt the whole universe conspiring against him to make his life utterly miserable. Again, he must have felt that his life was running on autopilot, as God was no longer in charge. But was that true? Have you heard about people who call themselves deists? In a popular sense of the concept, deists are people who believe that God created the world, but thereafter has exercised no providential control over what goes on in it. The deists see the world like a clock, which is left to run on its own after it has been made by the manufacturer. Many people today see the world with the eyes of a deist. They think the world has been left by God, without any sort of control over what goes on in it. This appeals to pessimists, especially in view of all of the things that are happening today. From the natural disasters to the moral crimes we see every day, it becomes so easy to arrive at the conclusion that God is no longer in charge of the universe. Yet, the words from the poem, by James Russell Lowell, stand as a consolation for us, when we begin to doubt God's sovereignty in the face of evil, moral depravity, disasters and uncertainties. Though the cause of evil prosper, yet 'tis truth alone is strong. Though her portions be the scaffold, and upon the throne be wrong, yet that scaffold sways the future, and behind the dim unknown standeth God within the shadows, keeping watch above his own. It was God who created the heavens and the earth, and also everything in it. By virtue of the fact that all things were made by him, he remains in charge and in control of all that is happening in it. The earth is the Lord's, and that has not changed. God has not handed over the control buttons of this world to anyone. Even the devil who boasts of being the God of this world is under the authority of God. One of the attributes of God is His omniscience. He knows all things. There's nothing that escapes His all-seeing eyes. He is aware of every single thing that happens in our lives, from the day we were born to the day we will die. Since God is aware of everything, that also includes the things that you keep worrying about. Many of us are going through a lot of difficulties in our lives. These things even keep us awake all night. They are the reason why our pillows are drenched with tears and our eyes are puffy from lack of sleep. Interestingly, God is aware of all of these things even before you mention them to Him. He is aware of that tuition you have not been able to pay up. He knows the report of your medical diagnosis that seem irredeemable and beyond the ability of the best personnel and practitioners. Do not think that He has not heard those silent prayers in your heart that speaks of your desire to turn a new leaf and chase God wholeheartedly. He knows about that boss who has sworn to make life miserable for you in that office. The Bible tells us that He has knowledge of every bird that flies in the air, and every strand of hair on your head. If He takes note of these seemingly inconsequential things, do you think He will not be aware of the things that matter to you? I know that you must have been tempted to think that God is no longer in charge of your life. It is possible that you now consider yourself to be under the mercy of your daunting difficulties and crippling circumstances. This must have led you to begin to consider the possibility of taking charge over your life. It is high time you are reminded of this truth: God is still in charge. This is not time for you to start worrying. This is not time to jettison His cover over your head and attempt to do things yourself, in your own way. God has allowed these things to keep occurring, so that at the end of it all, He will reveal Himself miraculously. Nobody should deceive you into taking control of your life. Allow God to make the decisions of your life. The English poet, William Henley, in his well-known poem, titled Invictus, gave us one of the most famous and immortal lines of poetry. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. While this seemed like an inspiration, it is a deluded claim to self-sovereignty. It is a blatant attempt to tell you that you, and not God, is in charge of your life. That is not true. So, each time you are feeling on edge, worried or anxious, be reminded that God is in control. The 3rd and 4th verses of the 23rd Psalm are a constant reminder of God's power over our lives. He refreshes and restores my soul, life. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for His name's sake. Even though I walk through the sunless valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for You are with me. Your rod, to protect, and Your staff, to guide, they comfort and console me. Amplified Bible. God is still in charge.